Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're taking a look at the new aviation tech tree for Israel that is being showcased in the new dev server for Update Winged Lions. Now just bear in mind this is the dev server, so things may very well change between now and when the patch drops. But with that in mind, let's have a look. The Israeli tech tree is the first one that will not begin at reserve tier, instead beginning at rank 4. To get access to the tech tree once it's been fully implemented into the game, you will need to reach rank 4 in either the US, British or French tech trees, or buy one of the premium Israeli aircraft. A lot of people may say that the tech tree is copy and paste, and yes, that is true, but as we move into the Cold War eras, there was a lot of technology and weaponry being shared around various nations, so it's inevitable that we're going to get into these situations. But the Israeli aircraft still have their own unique additions, especially the later jets in terms of weaponry and armament. We should also start seeing some more domestic technology added when the ground tree is included in the game, but for the moment we're just going to be focusing on the aircraft. So the aircraft tech tree will first be available to early access holders, like with previous tech tree editions, which can be acquired by buying either the premium Israeli Spitfire or the A4E. Now without further ado, let's have a look at the aircraft, and we'll be doing this in order of rank. I'll timestamp the video so that you can skip to whichever aircraft takes your fancy. We're going to begin with the plane that started it all, which is the Avia S-199, a Czechoslovakian license-built Bf-109G series, but with the Jumo engine from a Heinkel He-111 bomber fitted to it. This aircraft has a fascinating history, and if you're interested in learning more, I did a small video about it on my other channel, so feel free to check that out. History aside, in-game this aircraft has a top speed of 579 km an hour at 6,000 meters when spaded. Depending on modules, it will either come with a combination of 7.92mm and 13mm guns, or 13mm and 20mm guns. It also has the capacity to carry up to 4 small bombs for anti-ground attack. Due to the Jumo engine and the massive paddle propeller that comes with it, this aircraft has less power but produces more torque, making it more challenging to take off if you take this into simulator battles. As far as 109s go, it's a sad example, especially as it had a habit of shooting off its own propeller in real life. But it has huge historical significance, and I'm glad to see it included in the game. Next we have the Spitfire Mk IXc. The camouflage shown here represents the first Spitfires used by the Israeli Air Force, most of which were built from surplus parts and airframes smuggled into the country. It has a top speed of 650 km an hour at 8,500 meters when spaded. It has 4 7.7mm Browning machine guns and 2 20mm Mark II Hispano cannons. It can be equipped with 250-pound bombs or 8cm anti-tank rockets, which have a healthy 300mm of penetration. It may look almost identical to the premium Spitfire, but there are a few differences. The Wiseman has a Merlin 66 engine, as opposed to a Merlin 61 engine which is fitted to the Mk IXc here, and the Wiseman has 2 50 caliber machine guns in place of 4 7.7mm Brownings. That being said, the Tech Tree Mark IX is still a formidable dogfighter, especially with the recent buffs to the Hispano cannons. Next, we have the clipped wing variant of the Spitfire Mark IX, and the first showing of that gorgeous camouflage scheme that was typical of the earlier years of the Israeli Air Force. Unlike the regular Mark IX, this one almost has identical performance compared to the premium Wiseman Spitfire. A top speed of 690 km an hour at 4,800 meters, 2 50 caliber machine guns and 2 Mark II Hispanos. The aircraft carries no ground ordnance, so it is a dedicated dogfighter. The clipped wings improve its roll rate, and combine that with the addition of 150 octane fuel modifications, and you have a pretty potent package at this tier. Moving on from the Spitfires, we have the first American planes, starting with the P-51 D-20NA. This aircraft has a top speed of 710 km an hour at 7,600 meters. It's equipped with 6 50 caliber Browning machine guns and can carry 250-pound, 500-pound or 1,000-pound bombs, along with 6 air-to-ground rockets. This aircraft will most likely be your primary CAS unit for Tier 4 when the ground tree gets added. Like most Mustangs, be aware of high stall speeds, poor slow speed handling, and a poor climb rate. On the other hand, this thing can be an absolute monster at high altitude and at high speed, and boom and zoom attacks against your targets is the way to go. The last rank 4 aircraft is the B-17G. At the very beginning, Israel could only field 3 of these bombers, the aircraft having been smuggled into the country. Nevertheless, their use had a huge impact on their enemies, who did not believe that the Israeli Air Force were capable of fielding heavy bombers. Like other B-17 variants in War Thunder, this is a tanky aircraft that is bristling with defences. It's powered by 4 powerful 9-cylinder engines. It will get up to about 510 km an hour at an altitude of 7,600 meters, and the bomber can carry a mix of 100 pound, 250 pound or 500 pound bombs in its spacious bomb bay. There are currently 4 Rank 5 vehicles available, but I could only fly 3 of them as the Gloucester Meteor NF.13 was not available to me for some reason in the dev server. This is the night fighter variant of the Meteor, and 6 of them were sold to Israel. It looks rather strange with its elongated nose, but it does feature a radar. That being said, the radar only has a range of 8.5 kilometers, and of course being a primitive radar, there is no IFF. Next up, we have the Meteor F.8, and I know I've already said it, but I really love the paint job on these earlier jets. It just looks very cool. Israel took delivery of at least 11 F-8 Meteors between 1953 and 1954, and the aircraft would go on to play a role in the Suez Crisis. It would also claim Israel's first jet-on-jet kill, downing an Egyptian de Havilland Vampire in 1955. The Meteor has a top speed of 976 km an hour at sea level. It has 4 20mm Mark V Hispano cannons and can be equipped with RP-3 rockets. Of the 2 Rank 5 jet fighters you get for Israel, and I mean traditional jet fighters, not counting the night fighter, this one is definitely the turn fighter of the 2. It has great low speed turn rates and a decent climb rate. The Hispanos are pretty good, but they do feel like glorified shotguns when the plane is stock, so just be wary of that. The next Rank 5 fighter is the Dassault M.D.450B Ouragan. This aircraft saw extensive use with Israel, the country receiving at least 75 aircraft by the end of 1955. They were mostly employed in the close air support role, but also did tangle with some Egyptian-flown MiG-15s. It has a top speed of 963 km an hour at sea level, and is equipped with 4 20mm M50 cannons. The Ouragan can carry 500 pound or 1,000 pound bombs, and can also be equipped with Matra 140 or 151 unguided rockets. This aircraft is at its most maneuverable between 500 and 700 km an hour, and has a very good roll rate at this tier. Its biggest drawback is its relatively low top speed, so it will struggle to outrun its opponents in a straight line. The final Rank 5 aircraft is the Vautour IIA. Israel received 31 of these aircraft, and they would lead a relatively active service life. It was used against Egyptian targets in 1959, and also saw action in a number of other conflicts, including the Six-Day War and the War of Attrition. In War Thunder, this aircraft is virtually identical to the premium French Vautour. It has a top speed of approximately 1100 km an hour at sea level, and it comes equipped with 4 potent 30mm DIFA cannons. It has a comprehensive array of suspended armament. For anti-ground action, it can carry multiple bombs ranging from 100 kg to 500 kg under its wings and in its bomb bay. It can use Matra T-140 and 151 unguided rockets, as well as SNEB rocket pods. It is also the only Rank 5 aircraft for Israel that can carry air-to-air missiles, being equipped with up to 4 Shafrirs. The Vautour has good multi-role potential, as it can carry up to 6 bombs and 4 air-to-air missiles in the same loadout. The first Rank 6 aircraft is the Dassault Mystere IVA. It was the first swept-wing transonic aircraft to be operated by Israel, entering service in 1956. They saw extensive use during the Suez Crisis, losing only 1 aircraft over 147 sorties during the short but active conflict. The Mystere has a top speed of 1124 km an hour at sea level, and is equipped with 2 30mm DIFA 552 cannons that make use of a range-finding radar. The Mystere has good air-to-ground loadouts, being able to carry 250 kg or 500 kg bombs, Matra 151 rockets, and SNEB 23 rockets. It has a durable airframe that can tolerate high G-loads, which is good for snap turning, but the aircraft struggles to retain energy in prolonged turn fights. It's best to use boom and zoom tactics for attacks, and rolling scissors for defense, as it does at least boast a good roll rate for this tier. It should be noted, however, that this is the only Rank 6 aircraft that does not have air-to-air missiles for Israel. After the arrival of Soviet MiG-19s, Israel needed a next-generation interceptor, and the French Super Mystere was selected. Israel started to take delivery of the aircraft in late 1958, and the aircraft was renamed the Sambad. The Sambad was Israel's first supersonic fighter, and their first fighter with an afterburning engine. It had a top speed of 1,209 km an hour at sea level, and it was equipped with two 30mm D-FA 5.52 cannons. Despite being dubbed a supersonic aircraft, it will only be capable of supersonic flight above 6,000 meters. However, it is still very fast in level flight for its tier. The Sambad can carry a pair of Shafir air-to-air missiles for air combat, or for CAS it can carry 100 kg, 250 kg or 500 kg bombs, or alternatively Matra 151 unguided rockets or SNEB 23 rockets. Following quickly on from the Sambad was the Sa'ar, which is an improved version of the previous aircraft. Israel removed the original Atar engine and replaced it with the Pratt & Whitney engine from an A4 Skyhawk. The engine was more powerful and the need for an afterburner was no longer necessary. This also allowed the aircraft to carry far more ordnance. It has approximately the same top speed as the Sambad and the same guns, but the big difference is the ordnance loadout, this time allowing for both anti-air and anti-ground weapons to be carried at the same time and in much greater numbers. Next we have the A4E Early. Israel was the largest export customer for the Skyhawk, and the aircraft was the first US warplane to be offered to Israel, marking a turning point where the US took over from France as their chief military supplier. Israel purchased an initial order of 217 in 1966, which quickly grew to include more. In-game, it has a top speed of 1,095 km an hour at sea level, and is equipped with two 20mm cannons. The A4 has a large selection of suspended armaments, including AIM-9B sidewinders, cannon pods, Mighty Mouse rockets, Zuni rockets, unguided bombs, and Walleye guided bombs. It is also the first Israeli aircraft to come with countermeasures, which make this an excellent multi-role platform, much like the other Skyhawks already found in the game. Moving into top-tier territory, we start with the F4E Phantom II. The Israeli Air Force was the largest foreign operator of the Phantom, flying both newly built and ex-USAF aircraft. They were first delivered to Israel in 1969, and subsequent deliveries soon followed, seeing action for the first time in the War of Attrition. It has a top speed of 2,138 km an hour at 12,200 meters, and is equipped with a 20mm M61 cannon. Like all Phantoms, it has a truly massive selection of suspended armament loadouts, suiting all of your offensive needs. However, most notable weapons include the Walleye guided bombs, A7E2 Sparrows, and the AIM-9P sidewinders. The AIM-9P family is a derivative of the AIM-9J and N, and were primarily exported. They boast good G-load tolerances at launch and during flight, and supplement them with the dogfight version of the A7E Sparrow, and you have a potent anti-air platform. But what if you want something a bit more nimble? The Nesher is an Israeli-built version of the Dassault Mirage V. The first aircraft was delivered in 1971, and they saw service in the Yom Kippur War. The aircraft had a relatively short service life, being retired by the end of the 1970s to be replaced with the more modern Kafir, another Mirage derivative. The aircraft has a top speed of 2,160 km an hour at 1,200 meters, and is equipped with a pair of 30mm D-FA cannons. It lacks the improved AIM-9P missiles of the Phantom, but it can still be equipped with a pair of AIM-9Gs. The Nesher can also carry a surprisingly large payload of anti-ground ordnance, being able to carry up to 8 750-pound bombs, or 3 2,000-pound bombs at once, while still being able to carry a pair of anti-air missiles. It can also carry a single 3,000-pound bomb, or a collection of Zuni or Mighty Mouse unguided rocket pods. This aircraft should prove to be quite the fun dogfighter, and indeed a rather good CAS aircraft as well. Just bear in mind it does lack RWR and countermeasures, so you will need to keep your head on a swivel. Now there are some additional aircraft that are coming into the game that were not available in this dev server, like the Kafir C7, the A4H, the A4N, the Vautour IIA, and I think I might be missing one, I might not be. Hopefully they will be in the next dev server so I can do a rundown on those as well. But basically, we're still waiting on another Tier 7, possibly 2 tier 7s and at least 2 or 3 tier 6s. I'll be very surprised that the Vautour IIN is kept as a tier 5 like the Vautour IIA. I reckon the Vautour IIN will be tier 6. But anyway, that's a quick rundown on what is currently available for the Israeli tech tree on the dev server. Hopefully when the next dev server comes up we can have a look at the rest. If you have any questions, drop a comment below, but aside from that, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Goodbye.